It's around 10 in the morning. In just a few minutes, Saddam Hussein will take full control of Iraq, a rule that will last 24 years. Lately, there's been a lot of talk about changes in the Ba'ath Party, about a president who suddenly resigned, and about a man known for his toughness and iron grip who just took power. His name is Saddam Hussein. It's Sunday, the 22nd of July, 1979. The capital moves through what looks like a regular morning. Everything feels normal, at least on the surface. Meanwhile, in the Tikrit district, just beside the Republican Palace, hundreds of Ba'ath Party members gather inside Untold Hall, Iraq's largest conference hall at the time. The elite of the Ba'ath Party are all together under one roof. Let's step inside the hall as comrades wait for the meeting to start. Hello, comrade. Good to see you.
Glad to have you here.
Can you tell me what today's meeting is about? And what kind of invitation did you get?
Nothing unusual. We gather regularly all the time. That's our work. The regional leadership called us, so we came, same as every meeting. But to be honest, something feels off. No agenda was distributed. The whole area is locked down by security. They searched us thoroughly at the gate. Rumor is the new president might attend or might not.
And what's your opinion of the new president?
Comrade Saddam? Everyone knows he's strict. He used to be vice president under Ahmed Hassan al-Bakr. He's only been in charge for 6 days now. In Ba'ath Party, we believe patience is a virtue. So let's wait and see.
The doors swing open and Saddam steps in. He walks to the podium, takes his place behind the microphone, and recites the Ba'ath Party's famous slogan, "One Arab nation with an eternal mission." He starts the session by asking for the names of those who are absent. He wants to know exactly who isn't in the room before moving on. Then comes the surprise he's been holding back. A supposed spy network linked to the Syrian Ba'ath Party and a secret plot to overthrow Iraq's leadership. After nearly 2 hours of explaining the details and how the plot was stopped, Saddam, calm, cold, unflinching, pulls out a cigar, lights it slowly, and starts reading names. Then the hall falls silent. With each name called, security escorts the person out. No one knows where they're being taken. The fear in the room is impossible to describe. In Saddam's hand, that list decides who lives to see another day and who doesn't. Once the hall is cleared of those he called traitors, the room erupts in hysterical chaos, tears, shouting, and loud applause. That moment marked the beginning of what many would call the era of applause. A new Iraq was born under a leader who made one thing certain: there would be no red lines. As for the fate of those who were escorted out of the hall, some were placed under house arrest, others imprisoned, and 22 were executed immediately. Al-Oja, a poor village in Tikrit, had mud brick houses, muddy streets, and the smell of bread baking in local ovens. Most of its people were simple farmers working the land. On the 28th of April, 1937, Saddam was born. His father, Hussein al-Majid, never got to see his son. Some say he died, others say he disappeared. His mother, Subhala, was very young and poor, and later remarried. Saddam, and with him, Iraq's future, began to take shape in the simplest details of his childhood. He started school late at 10, older than all of his classmates, and even carried a small knife. Early on, he felt that he was always the strongest, and that those around him were smaller, weaker. This feeling stayed with him, growing over time, and would later become a core part of his personality. The first major turning point in Saddam's life came when his uncle, Tulfa, brought him to Baghdad to live with him. Tulfa was no ordinary man, a former army officer who had taken part in a revolution against the British, which cost him 5 years in prison. This experience made him resent the royal regime in Iraq, seeing it as merely a system controlled by Britain. Over the years, Tulfa planted in his teenage nephew's mind stories filled with hatred for colonialism and a deep longing for the idea of a united Arab nation. On the 14th of July, Baghdad awoke to the sounds of tanks as Abdul Karim Kazim overthrew the royal regime in an event known as the Al Rahab Palace Massacre. Most members of the royal family were killed. On that day, the king fell and the Iraqi Republic was established. At that time, the world was divided between the Soviets and the Americans, locked in the heat of the Cold War. Yet in Iraq, Gamal Abdel Nasser's voice from Cairo resonated in Baghdad, calling for Arab unity, national pride, and the reunification of the Arab world. A young man from the countryside found himself in the capital searching for a political home that matched the ideas his uncle had instilled in him. The communists were strong in Iraq, but their vision did not fit Saddam's beliefs. The nationalists on the other side were popular, yet poorly organized. Then a new party emerged, the Arab Socialist Ba'ath Party. Secretive and structured in small cells, its slogans were bold: unity, freedom, socialism. Words that ignited the hearts of young Arabs: discipline, secrecy, and the belief that change comes through force. All these factors drew the young Saddam to the fledgling Ba'ath Party. The Ba'ath was more than a new party. It was a gateway into the world of politics. Within just a year, this affiliation would thrust Saddam into his first confrontation with the new Republican regime of Abdul Karim Qasim. In 1959, Abdul Karim Qasim had been in power for just a year after overthrowing the monarchy. He favored the communists and pushed aside the nationalists and Baathists. That summer, the Ba'ath Party made a risky plan to assassinate Qasim, the man who had ended the monarchy and started the republic. A small group of about 9 young Baathists was chosen, including Saddam Hussein, who was 22 at the time. Their plan was to ambush Qasim motorcade on Al-Rashid Street in Baghdad. On the 7th of October 1959, a group of young Baathists, armed and blending into the everyday crowd of Al-Rashid Street, waited in tense anticipation for the target convoy to pass. Only a few seconds separated Qasim from death. The President Guards reacted immediately, firing back at the ambushers amid chaos and panic in the street. During the exchange of fire, a bullet hit Saddam in the shoulder. After moments of confusion and gunfire, the attackers retreated through the side alleys of the street. But the assassination attempt failed, and Qasim survived and remained in power. As a result of this attempt, the Baathists faced a widespread arrest campaign, with some imprisoned and others disappearing from the scene. After some time in hiding, Saddam went into exile for the first time. He fled to Syria to escape arrest, where the Baathists welcomed him as a hero. The Syrian party press focused on the courage of the operatives, not the mission's failure. He did not stay long in Syria. After a short time, he decided to move to Egypt to continue his academic studies at the Faculty of Law, Cairo University. During his rule, Abdul Karim Qasim isolated Iraq from the Arab world, not to mention his disputes with Egypt leader Gamal Abdel Nasser that widened the gap even further. Domestically, his empowerment of the communists and closeness to them increased the anger of the Arab nationalist movement, which had the greatest popularity in Iraq. It is important to note that despite the persecution the Baathists faced, over the coming years they would rebuild their power, especially within the army. On the 8th of February 1963, a pivotal day in modern Iraq history, Baghdad witnessed a bloody coup and massacre. The military operation was led by the Ba'athist Colonel al-Bakr, with political support from Arif, a Nasserist Arab nationalist aiming to overthrow the communist leader Qasim. Qasim fortified himself in the Ministry of Defense building, and fighting continued for 2 full days. The coup forces shelled the building with tanks and aircraft. During 48 hours of resistance, Baghdad witnessed a massacre, leaving hundreds of civilians and soldiers dead or wounded. Eventually, Qasim was forced to surrender under an agreement with the coup leaders. However, the agreement was immediately broken. Upon his arrest, he was taken to the radio and television building, and in front of live cameras, Qasim and his accompanying officers were executed by firing squad. This marked the end of the life of the man who had overthrown the monarchy, the first president of the Iraqi Republic. At that time, Saddam was still in Egypt, keeping track of the coup against Qasim from a distance. Once Qasim's death was confirmed, he left his law studies and returned to Iraq to join the Ba'ath security forces. His role, hunting down remaining communists, carrying out arrests, and conducting investigations. However, this role lasted less than 9 months. Tensions between Arif, the Arab nationalist, and the Ba'ath Party escalated. Arif, who had overthrown Qasim, soon turned against the Ba'ath as well, dissolving the Revolutionary Command Council and removing Ba'ath members from power and key state positions. Since Saddam's loyalty was to the Ba'ath, he became a target once again and had to flee Iraq. He crossed the border through smuggling routes, first reaching Syria and then moving on to Egypt for a second time. In a scene etched repeatedly in Saddam's memory. While in exile, he heard news of the death of Iraq president. This time, it was not a coup but fate. Arif died in a plane crash, and his brother Abdul Rahman assumed power. Abdul Rahman was known as a peaceful man, gentle and diplomatic, taking a middle path and trying to satisfy all political factions. With this new presidential change and the easing of repression, Saddam saw his second chance to return to Iraq at the age of 29. This time, he strengthened his ties with al-Bakr through their tribal connection, both hailing from Tikrit. Abdul Rahman's diplomacy did not last long against the Ba'ath Party's hunger for power. On the 17th of July 1968, a new Ba'athist coup took place led by al-Bakr. But this time it was simple and swift with almost no resistance. Power fell completely into the hands of the Ba'ath. Alongside focusing on security work, the Ba'ath quickly moved to nationalize Iraq's oil sector. What is nationalization? It is the opposite of privatization. It is the transfer of ownership of oil facilities to the public sector with direct state supervision over the production and sale of Iraqi oil. Saddam, who was vice president of the Revolutionary Command Council under al-Bakr, played a key role in ending contracts with foreign companies that had invested in Iraqi oil for many years, while at the same time negotiating with the Soviets to benefit from their technical equipment and engineering expertise to strengthen and support the public oil sector in Iraq. With the global oil crisis in 1973 and the sudden surge in oil prices, huge amounts of money started flowing into Iraq. The country suddenly floated on a sea of wealth. Iraq in the 70s under Ba'ath rule witnessed rapid development. New schools, universities, hospitals, highways, and electricity projects were built. Unemployment decreased and incomes rose. People felt the state was providing for them and that their daily lives were improving. At the same time, Iraq was establishing a security state that did not tolerate dissent. Every achievement was linked to the party and specifically to Saddam. Iraqi media at the time did not go a day without mentioning the man who nationalized the oil and the leader of development. Even though al-Bakr was the official president, media and party propaganda centered around the persona of the vice president, Saddam Hussein. During these years, Saddam expanded the influence of his tribe. He brought in cousins and relatives from Tikrit and placed them in key positions in the army and security. Barzan al-Tikriti rose to head intelligence. His cousin, Adnan Karala, rose through the army ranks to become Minister of Defense. Ali Hassan al-Majid and others formed the backbone of the regime. Those controlling the security and political institutions were Ba'ath officers, but their true loyalty was to the tribe, not only to the party. By the end of the 70s, there was serious discussion about a plan to unite with Syria. Hafez al-Assad was pushing for a union under the Ba'ath banner. Al-Bakr leaned toward this idea, but Saddam saw it from a different perspective. This is a long discussion that would require a full episode. Let us not get into it. With al-Bakr's declining health and the deep internal political disagreements over the union with Syria, it became clear that al-Bakr could no longer continue. On the 16th of July 1979, al-Bakr announced his resignation for health reasons. On the same day, Saddam Hussein assumed all positions: President of the Iraq, Secretary General of the Ba'ath Party, and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces. 6 days later came the meeting at Al-Cold Hall, and now you know the rest of the story.